Business agility is both a broad journey and also a continuous method of arriving at a final destination. So think of it as like moving from state to state, a from state to a to state, and then from that to state to another to state, and continuously moving and progressing towards this even better, maybe you would even call it like a utopian or an ideal state. Like, I think we're always in pursuit of perfection. And as accountants, that's probably something that's even more near and dear to our heart, because we are really trying to be as accurate as possible. And so when organizations talk about being more agile, they want to move to the right, reactive to proactive. I don't know of any business that doesn't want to have a more proactive stance on their operations, their financials, their decision making, from manual to automated, risk averse to compliance oriented, rigid to fluid. I mean, there's so many things that really go into this. So that's a total shift from conversations we were having a decade ago. A decade ago we were like, get a Fujitsu ScanSnap scanner and your life is going to change. Now we're talking about this idea of changing from a state to an improved state. So one really interesting thing that the folks over here at Quadient put together, which is fascinating to me, and let me make sure I get this right, I want to read this. According to Fortune Business Insights, a 2022 report, the global market for accounting software has grown 8% every year, and it's predicted to reach $20.1 billion by 2026. I mean, that is just a significant number. We know as accountants, the accounting software is the heart of every business. It ties everything together. Everything needs to integrate with it. So we are becoming more and more important to every organization. And therefore, we have to be even more agile and help everyone to become more agile as well. All right, so agile really is this methodology, this journey that we're on. And as we are undergoing this transformation to become more agile, we're responding differently to the changes that are happening into the business landscape. So, and it's really just driven over and over again by this constant like external change that's occurring to us. So we're responding. We feel the change, we got to respond. We feel the change, we got to respond. And so the demands are great on us to even keep in the mindset. Accountants have not historically been the best at change. And yet now we are often being called on to lead the charge for how do we change this and make this better. So it really is going to fall to us in a lot of cases to be leaders in this process. And because this process is so closely tied to accounting, really this mentality, we're going to have to also understand how we take these sprints, this agile methodology, these sprints of let's figure it all out, tackle these tasks, get it implemented, and then evaluate what went right, what went wrong. And for any of those out there who are fans of Ron Baker, you will know this is like the after action reviews that he talks about, right? So, what went well, what didn't go well, how do we make it better? And then start another sprint and do the second round of improvements, and then keep going there and thereafter. So, there's lots of different ways to think about it and to handle it, but and certainly, accountants, we're very good at taking other people's ideas and sort of melding them, leaving our own mark on it and turning it into something that makes it work for our organizations. But regardless, we're all going to be really demanded to deliver an enhanced amount of value through this different methodology. So how does this really apply to like accounts payable? Really, it's this operational delivery. There's so many different things that really pertain to accounts payable, and that's really, hey, we've got to be more collaborative. We've got to deliver more timely information. We have to have better decision-making skills and information. And so where does that really kind of leave accounts payable? It leaves it at the heart of the organization. We're generating the revenue, but there is nothing more important than making sure that we've got control of where that money is going. So accounts payable is becoming increasingly important, especially in this world of subscription mentality where everything's on a subscription. I know we're all there. We all love it from the revenue standpoint, right? Recurring revenue, but we also hate it from the AP standpoint because it's one more thing we have to manage. Things can get out of control. So All right, but let's just face it, accounts payable has not been one of these tasks in the past where it's like, hey, this is super sexy in the organization. It's been a lot of paper pushing in the past. It's been mundane. The reconciliation processes, a lot of it is just very repetitive, going through the process of issuing purchase orders, reconciling them, receiving inventory, entering accounts payable, all of the matching process. It's been extremely manual and often very time consuming, and not a job that a lot of people want to sign up to do for very long. Great learning opportunities, but it's just not where people want to spend their time, especially not anymore. But it is central to the finance operations. So right now we've got to really kind of rethink things and take some time to say, hey, how do we take what we were doing before and rethink it from an agile standpoint and say, how do we make this more efficient, more cash flow focused? How do we take something and improve the efficiency? And that's really what we're shooting for when we start talking about agile AP processes. All right, so what can I jump in here? What are the characteristics of agile AP? Well, I think we can all say that number one, we know, is automation. Absolutely. And you can see here the other things that are listed, and we're going to run through these briefly. Agile AP, to be automated. So we all know that AI is on the horizon. That's one of the things, the technologies that's moving this forward. Robotic process automation, RPA. Probably less familiar to accountants, but certainly more to engineers. Like, how do we make things happen without having to touch them? And then, of course, the machine learning, all three of these things together, making light work of these super repetitive tasks, making it hands-free. We're talking workflow approvals. I mean, we've seen a lot of that, where you can kind of say, hey, this goes to this person, then to this person, and these are the limits. And now, instead of it having to be something you think about or a person has to control, now the computer does it. The journal entries, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the journal entries that can be made where it's like, hey, we've noticed that this is an AP item that came in and it is over this period of time. Looks like it needs to go to prepaid. We'll just set it up to amortize over the next 12 months. Like, wow, what would have been a work paper and a manual journal entry, and then you just had to hope and pray somebody remember that we actually had to amortize it. Now all that becomes automated. The dreaded intercompany consolidation, making sure if it's in one set of books, is it in the other set of books on the other side? Like, so many different things. And that leads eventually to like rev rec, how does, the milestones, the things that we're recording from an expense standpoint, how does that influence how revenue is recognized? Just tons of things. The bottom line is that the AI, the machine learning, the RPA, all of it is going to have a significant impact, not only on accounts payable, but certainly on everything in finance and accounting. It's coming. To me, this is one of the most fascinating things. I was really excited to read this study, and that is that 70% of the companies who have implemented agile AP, I mean, we're talking about like the AICPA and the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. This organization is saying you're going to get a substantial amount of ROI by implementing agile AP. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's crazy to me. The average cost of generating an invoice, Adobe says, is somewhere between $50 and $40. Wow. I mean, by the time you create it, in the system, you run it up the ladder to get paid, you evaluate it, you send it back for some other type of approval, and then you pay it. Yeah, that's probably about right. I mean, that's $40. Imagine if you could shave 70% off of that. That's a mind-blowing money. So you talk about being a hero in the accounting department, right? So the other component of agile AP is being digital first. I mean, this is a really, really big component of it. It's just getting this stuff out of the paper format and into the digital format. We know it's faster, way faster when it's in a digital. It's easier to share. It's easier to read. We don't have to worry about like moving paper from one place to another place. No data entry issues. We're streamlining the workflow. I mean, there's so many wonderful things that come from this digitization of the documents. And in a lot of cases, people don't even send paper anymore. You're just going to email it. So, I mean, then it's already in a form where OCR makes total sense because it's coming from PDF to PDF and it can be processed super fast. You know, the other thing is streamlining that AP workflow. Wow. I know that you guys have used programs before that facilitate it. It takes a little while to get these things set up. You know, it's not like an overnight process. Like, hey, let's go from manual to setting everything up where it's in a workflow. And it is an iterative process to see what works, like how the system is going to accommodate the processes you already have and what you need to change in terms of processes and procedures. But once it's running and everyone has adopted it fully, I mean, you're talking about eliminating these huge bottlenecks where, hey, that sat on Joe's desk for 3 weeks. We didn't know that had to be paid, and they cut our service off, right? Now we have to renegotiate that deal. So many different things that have come up over the years of stories related to accounts payable that have totally impacted a lot of my clients. But efficiency, getting rid of this, paper-based process and moving to something that someone can manage and have the visibility to see where things are in the process. Getting rid of those manual tasks. It's the same thing when you're streamlining the digitization, the automation, and now even the streamlining the workflow, where again, eliminating more manual intervention. All right, Agile AP is transparent. I was just talking about this visibility, but okay, this is kind of how things used to be back in the day. I remember when I first started really building an accounting practice, this was maybe back in 2006, 2007. Most business owners, when you walked in, and we're talking about smaller business owners, when you walked into their office, they had a folder for accounts payable. So anytime they got a bill, came in the mail, and even if they got a bill via email, they'd print it and they put it in the folder and they'd sort it by when it was due. I mean, you've seen it all, right? You've seen the folder, you've seen the whiteboard, the Excel spreadsheet. The thing is that now, I mean, you take a look at, the picture here of Quadient, the AP function here by Beanworks, like it's pretty. The visibility, and this is what everybody wants now, is this dashboard that they can share and drill down. So I don't necessarily have the bandwidth mentally to look at the spreadsheet and be able to make connections between all the things, right? I need the computer to boil it down and tell me the things that are the most important. I need it visually because I need high level data. I need to see the red flags of like, wow, this is really a problem. I need that stuff to be boiled up to the top and bubbled up to the top really fast so I could be taking the action I need to without having to sift through all the other stuff. So this visibility really enhances decision making. It's going to allow business owners to make better decisions when it comes to what to pay and what not to pay, based on what's due and what's not due, or how much cash they have, or what is on track or what's not on track, or are there other issues that need to be looked at. Okay, so we talked a lot about change, and man, we have to embrace so much of this right now. It is very, very difficult. It is probably one of the most challenging things as an accountant, is to have to, you have to be open. You got to be open to everything. Like all of a sudden, your whole world is really getting turned upside down. If you've used Chat GPT, wow, it's going to be passing. I think it did pass the CPA exam. We're almost past it. It's preparing tax returns. It can make analysis. I was talking to a client the other day who said that he took banking transactions and dumped it into Chat GPT and said, tell me what you think. And came up with some really awesome insights. Like everything's changing. So we have to change. I wrote an article, I think it was last year or the year before, about reversing the aversion to change. But when we do embrace change, what really happens to us is we become adaptable and we're super resilient. We just can navigate changes so much differently and better. So keep this in mind as you're sort of kind of going through all these different changes. It's making you a much different person. One time, or one thing I like to think about is that, when I'm going through a significant amount of change, is I think when I look back in a year, what am I going to see, right? And there's a really good chance that when you are forcing yourself to change in a very positive way, when you look back, you're going to say, whoa, I am so unrecognizable because I've navigated so many different challenges. It's changed the way I think. I've taken advantage of opportunities, and then you start thriving in that change. And it's amazing what can happen when you become an agent of positive change. You start changing other people for the better. And that really leads you to like efficiency and productivity. You're starting to push yourselves. You're starting to think differently about value-added activities and these initiatives and really the results that you bring. It's no longer those transactions because you've changed. And so what you bring to the table, it changes too. You're making different decisions. So it's not necessarily that they would be any better or that you made wrong decisions in the past. It's just how you're making decisions starts changing, which means you're thinking differently. So I like to think of, thinking is like sort of like a road that's been, like a dirt road that's been rained on, and then a car goes through it and it creates these like ruts in the road. Like sometimes I feel like that's our brain, right? We just get into the rut and we keep doing the same thing. Like we have the same like neuro pathways. So when we start branching out and exploring some of these technologies and starting to ideate and innovate and really change, what happens is that we're creating these new neural pathways in our brain that lead to enhanced ways to make decisions. And compliance and risk management, man, we start thinking a lot different about the risk that we're taking. We start thinking a lot about the potential threats to the bottom line. We start thinking about, hey, what could go wrong? Are we doing a good job of complying with these laws? We become more conscientious because all of a sudden we have more awareness. Innovation and competitive advantage. Technology and changing, keeping up with the times makes us more innovative. It definitely gives us a competitive advantage because it makes us leaders, and great people want to come work with great leaders. And so now we start changing who we're working with, how we're training them, how we're thinking about everything. Like this is something that makes us better. It makes our team better. It makes our organizations better. So it all really does link back together. And then just this, continuous learning and growth. I mean, who doesn't want to improve? We're accountants, okay? We didn't get into this business to stop learning. We know that. Every time we, see a new customer come on board, or we see a new vendor, or we hire another person, or hey, there's a new product line, another service that's getting rendered. Or if you're in public accounting, how many times have you, I've worked with thousands of businesses over the years, so I know I've seen how many ways people make money, and it's been fascinating to continuously learn and improve that, and just keep growing.